All right. I am live. I didn't give any scheduling time on this almost whatsoever, and so I would imagine most of you will catch this after it is done. But I am here for episode 20 of my vlog. Gosh, what a 2 weeks. I think I last streamed on the 17th of July, or at least for this format, for this particular vlog series. And I think the most notable news that I've actually been holding on to for a long time, and if you go back earlier on in my channel on this, I kind of alluded to it with things I was doing with Jason Slagle or around the Beyond time frame. But July 17th was the last time I streamed, and I've been to like a lot of places since then. This has actually been a really active few weeks. I think 11 flights since the 17th. The 11 is weird. There was supposed to be a 12th. But the 12th flight got canceled on me, and I ended up having to rent a car. Kat and I had to rent a car from Chicago to drive to Detroit, or technically, I guess it would have been specifically, we were in the Toledo area, right? So, whatever. But we flew to Detroit, or we flew to Chicago. Chicago to Detroit got canceled. That was like the beginning of this craziness, technically. I mean, I guess technically we flew back from Seattle that day where I was at WatchGuard, got home that evening, took Friday the 18th off. Like I took and played some catch up. It was fantastic. And you'll see there's a little bit of a theme of that this last few weeks. I've been trying to like recharge. It's been a long 8-9 weeks. And I'm finally staring down the pipe at like 4 weeks-ish of fairly uninterrupted time at my house, which is really cool. That means I'll obviously go on a trip and travel somewhere because I'm stupid. But anyways, okay. So the 18th, I kind of went home and took the day off. The 19th, I had to fly. I do a little bit of that comp time sometimes where like I know I have to fly on Saturday, so I'm going to take a little bit of Friday off and get clothes washed, Cat is, and get stuff prepared and like all of that. Flew out to Detroit again. Again, that's what happened. I didn't end up making that Detroit leg because they just canceled it. And then they canceled it because of the way I have to buy tickets with PAX 8. My Matt Lee tickets are on my one platform and Cat's are on a separate, and they're not on the same record locator. I don't get the benefit of having Cat on my same status. So what happens is we got canceled, and the rebooks. One, I took a ticket and it sent me basically I'd be there at like 4 p.m. instead of 1 p.m., which means I missed the whole purpose of the day. And then Cat was going to be there at like 9 p.m., which meant I'd have to come back to Detroit from Toledo. So we're like, no, let's just see what we can do. Spent 3 hours on the phone sitting in the airport. Ended up getting to go to Chicago early enough in the morning to rent a car and drive the 4 hours to Toledo, or 5. I think it was 4 hours to Toledo. Cat drove, and then drove back. So it meant we had to miss something that was intended for us to be there for. Just yeah. Anyways, thanks United Airlines. That's the day. Next week, though, we are in Detroit. Got to spend the weekend with Jason and team, which was awesome. Got to go out in the boat and ride up and down the Toledo River. It was funny because Jason hadn't brought his boat out in like 2 years. And he's like, they told him it was the most expensive dock fee. It was like, $5,000 boat trip, right? Because he finally had to take his boat out of storage and had been paying the whole time. I digress. But we did go on a boat ride on Sunday. That was fun. Monday went in. I had a stream. I did a stream live with Jason of the hackathon, where we talk about. This is a stream I've been doing. We're only on episode 2. We're going to be on episode 3. You can check that out on my hackathon stream here. I'll put it in the comments at some point. But ultimately, we just get together and talk nerdy stuff about context window management and MCPs and things that you buy or build or can do with different various AI tools. We're building some cool stuff together, so it's a really fun stream. So we did that. And I had a couple of meetings with people about stuff that's coming up. I met with the European folks Monday morning about NIS2 and mapping NIS2 to CIS, which will be fun. And then got to meet with Eric Stevens about Swords for Overlords, which is a talk I've got coming up at Wild West Hack and Fest in South Dakota in October about MCP abuse and about AI and the impacts of a protocol just being put out of nowhere from Anthropic and then readily adopted to give extensibility to LLMs and capabilities. So anyways, I digress. And then Tuesday was in Toledo. I got to talk about these because they're so fun. One of the presentations I did was this talk that I've been doing comparing timelines of cars and industrial revolution and things to the way we've approached technology in our lives as a historical basis for all humanity, at least in the current, last few hundred years. And ultimately, I did that for Jason's clients, which is really neat because it kind of like now does two things for me. One, I do this about 10 times a year now. It seems that I'm doing this for end partners, and almost always ROIs. If you are considering having an event where you bring in partners and prospects of yours that are maybe valuable, and then have somebody come in as a guest speaker and do a day of it and lunch and everything, it costs you a few grand, but the return on investment of that is extremely high. I don't know that I've been to one that is an ROI, and that's not a self pat on the back. It's a group collective that these parties that are doing this have been very effective. So I did that, and it was cool because immediately the next day, as I'm heading to Southwest Louisiana, which is the next thing that was on my list to talk about. But as I was heading to Southwest Louisiana, I got a text from Heather Slagle, and she's like, "Hey, we got a $15,000 non-recurring revenue assessment and a potential for $15,000 MRR out of one of the clients that was there." So it's just really awesome because you get to be this like third-party resource that goes, "Hey, this shit these people are telling you actually means something. You should do something about it." And so there's like this really awesome value of that, of being able to be that, I don't know, that value to someone, to an organization, right? So it's really cool. So that was neat. I had a briefing for media stuff because what I'll talk about here in a bit, I knew was coming up. I had like 10 interviews with media coming up the next week, and so that was just wild. Flew to Lake Charles, Louisiana. I ended up not getting my bag. Like, talk about shit that just keeps going wrong. I get to the flight to Houston from Detroit, right? I get to Houston, and they just didn't load my bags on the flight to Lake Charles. Like, they had them for 2 hours. In fact, it was so wild. They picked Kat and I up in was it a Jaguar or Mercedes? It was a BMW. They picked us up in a BMW, and they picked Kat and I up in a BMW and drove us because they were training some new recruit, and they reserved it for ambassador, but I'm not ambassador, but we were, we didn't have any close flights, but they figured they'd drive it. So they came, picked us up. It was awesome. It was like, thank you, United, for like saying, I apologize for kicking you in the face so very many times in the last few weeks. And so I get there, and I'm sitting on the plane to leave to Lake Charles. I'm like, my bag is not on. Why? Because I have an air tag and everything. I have an air tag and everything because I'm tired of like losing my stuff, and they don't know where it is. Now I know exactly where it is, but they're telling me they have no idea where it is, right? But anyways, and so they just didn't put them on. So I'm panicking as we take off, and like the flight, all my bags are still sitting over there. So as it turns out, we had to rent another car because when we got to Lake Charles, we had to have a vehicle because the Uber infrastructure is really bad, and the car was super cheap. So we rented another car so we could drive back and forth to the airport a couple times. It was supposed to be on the next flight. It didn't get on the next flight. It was supposed to be on the next flight. It didn't get on the next flight. So I ended up buying, underwear and t-shirts and stuff to like exist. I think I got a sweet deal on a Tommy Bahama t-shirt while I was there. And then I got some underwear while I was there, I think was this lost bag. Anyways, but I had a Southwest Louisiana Cyber Summit coming up on Thursday, the 24th. That was a blast. I got to do a similar presentation. I have one that's geared more to MSPs and one that's geared more to end customers, but to MSPs. And I'm really just exposing a lot of the kind of legislative, regulatory, the lack thereof, and then the actual civil things that are playing out to change our world, both from insurance, subrogation, rescission, and the False Claims Act being applied in the Civil Cyber Fraud Initiative aspect, as well as safe harbor explanation, just immersing some people in some terms and things that matter around this risk management of cyber. And went really well. It was well attended. What's cool about it was well attended by like a various set of organizations. And what I didn't know is that Southwest Louisiana is massive in the chemical industry. And so you have this like really, really high level of critical infrastructure type things, or at least very risky chemicals and things that could be managed or cause problems for us. And then like very lack of security kind of stuff, like very open about the kind of place they are from a progress perspective. So that was really neat. And then I got to teach a hour session on kill chain analysis too, right? Taking and building kill chains from the way I have a methodology I use to look at modern breaches and the way they've written up, try to discern some key elements that you believe happened, take those things that you happen to believe how they should be better protected against, and then find a CIS safeguard that probably failed during that so that you can make attribution to your safeguards. Really just teaching people more the nuance of understanding safeguards and controls. So that was really neat. Did that presentation. There were like 35 people in that, which was cool because there wasn't a whole large number of people in the whole thing. And there's this one student, and this I love. It just stood out so amazingly to me. This one kid, like he had every answer to things that I find audiences not having answers to, especially when I teach that class. He was great at articulating the this must have happened, therefore that must have happened logic train. and being mostly right about that logic train, which is really cool. At least right in my opinion. Could mean we're both wrong and both idiots, but at least we're sharing our idiocy. But this kid was really on point. It was great to see. It was great to meet the kid. That was awesome. I don't remember his name. It's a common theme. I suck. More media briefings, more stuff. And then I flew from Lake Charles to my home. I was home for a whole day. I did get my bags. Everything went right. Like, holy crap, it was amazing. I just didn't think that could happen. So we were able to get that and get home for the Saturday, the 26th. And then I flew out Sunday, the 27th. Again, this is, I don't know if you've caught this theme, but this is now, I think, 8 weeks of us having a day home turn or, 48 hours, 36 hours, whatever it might be, turn time. So we did that. And where was I flying to now? I was flying to Nashville. And this was probably one of the cooler, if not surreal moments in my life, in my professional career for sure. And also maybe even in a personal level. I don't do well with like, Matt, you did great, or accolades or awards. I don't do well wanting to win them. I don't do well when I lose them. I don't do well with it. It's a personal challenge of mine. It comes from a lot of imposter syndrome. It comes from a lot of like just I don't know, the aspects of life and humanity and the weirdness that I am, I guess. But anyways, I met with a guy 7 months ago, my really good friend of mine, John Harden. He also is on the the hackathon stream. But John Harden asked me about this last award that I didn't win, my thoughts on GTIA, where I was going to go next. Should he put me in for the award? And I said, no, like, I'm done. I don't want the award. I don't want to play for this game. I don't want the award. I don't want any of that. And so he honored my wishes and he didn't put me in for the award. But somebody else did and wrote a 17-page, I think, application. I've yet to bring myself to read it. But Dave Alton, beautiful human, took a lot of work, a lot of time, ran it by a lot of people to really try to capture what I do for the world in his eyes. And it was really humbling. I guess humbling enough I can't read it. So take it with a grain of salt. Kat's read it and she thinks it's amazing. But it's really humbling, if not just hard for me to just hard. That's what I'll say. I don't want to go any deeper than that. It's just hard. And so that was, I've known for now 8-10 weeks maybe that I won this award, that I've been named this. I don't know about one, but I've been named Member of the Year for GTIA, the Global Technology Industry Association, right? This purported entity organization that kind of runs our world, especially for the SMB globally, that has been growing and fixing a lot of things, that has recently gotten to decide what is GTIA, right? As opposed to what CompTIA was, and how do we go forward? What do we look for that? And anyways, and I got named for the award. And so what began Monday, it was, obviously knowing it and not announcing it, but Tuesday midday at lunch, they announce it. They play my video, which is just amazing. I'll put the link in there for this if you're interested in watching the video. And it was just the beginning of a million hugs, a million handshakes. What I really value, though, was a lot of people took the time to tell me specifically how I had helped them. And that's hard, but it was also awesome. I mean, it's hard. I just tend to look at the ground. I can't deal with it. Man, thank you, Darren. Says I should be member of the decade. Love you, buddy. It was great to see you for a little bit. I'm sorry. I couldn't have told you, so you couldn't have known to stay. But yeah, so that's for anybody watching from GTIA. I kept secrets. I did a good job, I think. But it was hard for me, but it was special for me. People that were like, Matt, do you remember this one thing you did, or this one call, or this one group, or that you invited me to that, or that you helped me with that? It was just, I think those meant more than just congratulations from so many people. I think that's wonderful, and I really appreciate it. But that was the special part, was just there's 4 or 5 people that pulled me aside to tell me exactly what I had meant to them in their career in the last 5 years or so in this world. So that was really neat. I think that was really neat. My speech, I'll share this with everybody. I was told, a couple weeks ago that I had a speech I had to prepare, and that I needed 5 to 8 minutes, which, if anybody knows me, it's like saying hello is 5 to 8 minutes. I think we're 16 minutes in, and I'm barely up to the end of last week. I digress. But my speech that I wrote, that you can see, you won't be able to read it very well here, but you can see it at least there. Let me see what it looks like if I go to the screen. Yeah, you can see it. It just basically says thank you, and then a set of columns there. And what this says is actually thank you, Cat, PAX 8, GTIA, friends, my why. And this was my speech that I came prepared with, right? So I said, I want to say thank you to Kat, my wife. Like, I need to nail that. I need to nail PAX 8, specifically Rob Ray. Like, genuinely, though, Rob Ray, I'll just recreate it here. Like, Rob came into PAX 8 and fundamentally changed my capabilities of what I'm allowed to do, the way I'm allowed to do it. He does a lot to advocate for me and what I do inside the organization that I don't do for myself. So Rob's like, really genuinely huge. He's a board member of GTIA, a lot of influence where this goes for the mission, what I believe in. Ryan Walsh, just one of the kindest humans right on this earth. And really, I made allusion to, Rob Ray wasn't there, but Ryan Walsh, Ryan Burton, Nick Hetty, and Brad Fugit were the 4 people in the room when I pitched this crazy idea of, hey, I want to come work for y'all. I don't want a sales org. I don't want to be in anything. I just want to come and like do security stuff and teach security stuff to people. Like, can we do that? Oh, I don't want any measurements of KPIs. I don't want anybody to really respond or report to me, and I don't want to report to anybody else. And like, can we just like make this like super perfect and call it this name or this? I guess it was ridiculous, right? But like, they believed in me. They believed in what we're doing. They believed in what I'm doing. At least, for the last 4 years of my life, I've been fairly hassle free for that. And there's been some times and some challenges, but that's with any type of organization. And then GTIA, right? I wanted to thank MJ specifically, like just, crushing it from lead of community. Dan Winsley, I'm so excited about Dan. Not only does he just give you one of those feelings of this guy is a man of the people. He gets it. He understands it. He's fast. He's witty. He's funny. He's engaging. He's been successful. I think he has a clear vision of where this goes. I think I bet on Dan Winsley in this. I really do. So I'm super excited for him to be on board. He's super welcoming. Just going to be awesome. And he's so ingrained there. So, and they haven't paid me to say this. So like, if you guys want to send me a 50, I'll give you an address. Darren Cirillo can collect it for me. We'll take it in Chinese food later. But, Wayne Selk, right, owns the cyber programs division. I think that's where I put my heart in right now, is that moving towards standards, moving towards an organization where we all work together to build and establish what we accept as our standards together collectively. Chris Johnson, more tactically involved in that than Wayne, even in the day-to-day of the cyber programs of Trustmark and such. Lisa Person, I wanted to make sure Lisa got mentioned on stage. She was super tickled about it. Same with Miles Jobjan. So I took the time. I just want to make sure and write those down and didn't want to miss it because I know me. I'll get in the moment of it and I just suck and not put them in there. So I took time to make sure those were all thanked and what they do. And this balance. Like, you're trying to say, like, who do you thank? Well, I could rattle off like 100 names, right? But like, what do you do for that? How do you manage that? And so I tried to be very tactical about selecting and thanking the people that were directly involved in these organizations and or the submission of this accolade, I suppose. All right. And then after that, friends, Jason Slagle, John Harden, Alex Spiegel, and Dave Alton. Dave Alton, obviously, for submitting the report, along with the help of all those others mentioned. John Harden for just talking me off a non-zero number of ledges in life and just being an amazing human. Genuinely, I try to bet on the people that are going to aid the mission the most, and he's definitely one of those. Jason Slagle, I don't know, like I don't have a lot of like best friends. I don't have any real like deep friends that I spend a lot of time with, but he's on that very short list of maybe 5 or 6 people in this channel that I spend a lot of time with, both professionally, mission wise, and friend wise. So Jason's like that, all 3 of those for me. Friend, professionally valuable in everything we're trying to do from a mission perspective, and also, right, the person from a charitable perspective helps run the charity that we run, right? So Jason Slagle, I made sure to mention that. It was awesome to have his family in the audience, his wife, and then his family, his children were both there. And I get to do a non-zero amount, and I have to balance this. Like, for Jason watching this later, sorry, you're gonna get to hear my thoughts on this, but like his kids, I've kind of taken on as this weird uncle role, like not weird uncle, but like an uncle role that's kind of interesting, of like, I just call them accountable for their crap when I'm around them, as you just get comfortable with family. But it was great to have the kids be there and be accepted as part of this and get to see kind of the work that his dad does and I do. It was just fun. It was a good time to have the kids there. And then Alex Spiegel, she won 2 years ago. Just has always been a great resource for me and helpful and personal friend, and also helps a lot with the Trustmark. Same thing with John Harden, Miles Jobjan, Lisa Person, all those humans. Anyways, and then the last section was just 2 words, and it just said my why. And I got up and presented a 5-minute speech on my why. I kind of gave a brief immersion on like what my passion comes from, right? From Voldemort, from acquiring that $1 million MSP that ended up costing us $1 million or $3 million in total economic impact, right? And talking about my experience there in a brief way, but like, threatened lawsuits and settlements over the 18 months, ended up being involved with the FBI as an affidavit, or at least not myself, but our CEO as the affidavit on the arrest of a member of Sotonokibi by the FSB in Russia, and just all this kind of origin story really briefly. But then it's like the ultimate piece, and I had to balance whether I say this or not, because I chewed on this, shower thoughts. I don't ever write stuff down, but just this kind of shower thoughts. What's my talk going to be about? And I ultimately was like, do I tell the audience that my why is driven by the fact that every member of this audience dies? Like everyone sitting here is going to die, like all of you, myself included. And what drives me is like, I don't know, I feel this like calling to leave something better than I found it, to like make a difference, to influence my grandchildren and great grandchildren's life and virgin experience with technology, to be the same. We're gonna have to change things. Like we've gotten our free ride for the last 80 years. It's time to like really clean it up. And anyways, so that's my why. And I don't know that I'll ever be around for the major changes that need to exist. I don't know that that's my purpose. I'm just gonna keep trying. Anyway, so it was really cool. I got to just lay it out there. I had no other words to accomplish. I spoke towards my belief in what GTIA's opportunity is in front of them. And I mean this very much like a, yin yang kind of capability of like, you have an organization that has historically existed to serve the populace, but mainly to serve the ability to gain the revenue of the other half of the world, the search side. And now you have a company that is formed that is an organization and as a trade organization, only member first, right? Like the money's coming in from endowments, and you can focus on making a difference in this world. And with Dan at the lead and MJ and the team that are there, and the board now expanding to include people like Carrie, who's amazing, and just so many humans on that board that start to represent an opportunity. And I think that I got the opportunity to speak towards what I think that means and what that moves towards forward. And then also got to be made fun of because Rob Ray told me not to cry on stage. So I did not cry on stage. I did my best. The funny part, and I'll tell this story really quickly. I don't want to keep y'all too long, but the funny part is that throughout the week leading up, I'd been trying to see if Kat would let me bring her on stage. She would not. No amount of joking was allowed. In fact, the closer I got, the more I joked about saying, hey, babe, I'm going to call you up on stage and thank you as well for this member of the year and make sure that you're included in this. You're part of Team Lee. You travel with me everywhere. For those of you who don't know, we pay for Kat's flights so she can be with out of my LLC. Anyways, and so short story is like I wanted her to come on. She's like, absolutely not. If you do it, like, don't even joke anymore. By day 0, she's like, if you joke about it, I'm already mad. Like, stop joking. And so I had no idea that this was happening, but after I get done with my speech, they actually call Kat up to receive some flowers they got for her. And she's such a logical animal that she's like, she knows she can't say no. Like she has 14 seconds to make a decision. She's getting up. Like she's not saying no. So she came up and got her flowers and everything. So that was really awesome that she got to get recognized, even though if I had asked her to, she would have cut me next time I go to sleep, like legitimately. So it was cool. That was a cool moment to let Kat get up and be part of it and be recognized. She's very, very I don't like the camera either. I would say maybe there's a love-hate relationship and fondness that's existed now over the years of doing this, but like Kat hates the camera. Like Kat hates the stage. She's petrified of it. It is not her happy place, and she doesn't even need to make peace with it. She hates it. And so anyways, it was really neat to see her get to be on stage, whether she liked it or not, and me not get cut at night as I slept for that purpose. So I'll recap the stats. That then brought me to finishing out. I had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 something. Oh, my camera says it's time to go. Looks like it's time to go, boys. But no, it'll come back. It'll flash back here in a second, I would wager. No, maybe not. Let's see. Huh. Okay. Well, fair then. Anyways, well, you'll have no Matt source now. I'll just lead out with voice. I'm making the assumption you can still hear me, but anyways, I digress. So I had a bunch of interviews with media stuff. It was great to get to work with Kristen and David, a couple of our media handlers for PR. They're just amazing at what they do. Their briefings are great. They prep you for what to say and not to say so well. And then I don't pay much attention to them and do what I'm going to do. No, I tease. Only partially teasing. Okay, so what are the stats? I added 14 presentations in the last 2.5 weeks, 17th till now, so 17th to the 4th. I've had no more hours of education. I think that changes next week. I start a CIS course. If you are interested, you should join. I deep dive into the CIS controls and explain how they function, what they mean, what they really mean, things like that, and lots of years of experience doing that and working with the CIS team to talk about what they mean. I had another 11 flights, again, not 12. 12 because I ended up driving one of those legs, which really sucked. But it was great. I got a lot of stuff done. I got some slides done for a few things, got some logistics done while I was in the car. And then 88 nights in hotels, 12 more in the last 2.5 weeks. If that really lets it settle in how little I've been home, right? In the last 2.5 weeks, it's been 12 of those 2 weeks. And then 4 more ride shares. Had a lot of friends carting me around. I don't count those in the numbers, right? I had a car that I had rented in 2 different of those occasions, so very limited number of ride shares. 1 car rental that I consider a whole trip. That was that Detroit to or Chicago to Detroit leg. And then 5 more cities that I've been to over that. And yeah, so 51 total cities, 127 prezos, 36 hours of education, 74 flights, 88 nights, 74 ride shares, 6 trips. And someone recently suggested I should start tracking cancellations and delays. That number's too depressing to show. I just can't. I would guess it's in the 2/3 space, but I might be wrong. But I would bet 2/3 of my flights have been canceled or delayed or a bag lost or something of that nature. So anyways, I am not going to get up and mess with my camera right now and have it come back up because it is the universe's way of saying, Matt, you should be done. Thank everybody for being here. It was a fun vlog. I'm very super chuffed to be the member of the year for GTIA. I think when I was asked why, I thought that it was important. I gave this answer of, I think there's 2 purposes. I think one is there's an awesome recognition in my mind of the things that I'm doing, the things that PAX 8's affording me to do, and the work that is valuable that the members are recognizing. But I think the more valuable reason that's so cool is I think I want to give people the desire to go be member of the year. I want people to want to give more. I want people to be recognized for the things they're doing. I would encourage people to get involved. I would encourage people to do it. It was an amazing experience. And I think that it is something that people should aspire to try to accomplish. I think it's fantastic. Oh, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Says I'm living that best life. Man, it's a conflicted life, right? Like I think the imposter syndrome never goes away, or I hope it doesn't. Right? I hope that I'm always questioning whether I know something or whether it's accurate forever. But I will try to continue, and maybe that's what I'll close with. I think I'm glad you said this, Colin. Is like I believe that I leaned in more to the positives of this than I would normally. It's really hard for me when I get something that I've won, and I've won a lot of things in my life, to go, "Oh yes, I'm awesome," because I really, without getting too deep into it, there were certain humans in my life early on that were just as equally brilliant, but leaned into the being awesome and ended up being horrible humans. And so I just try to avoid very heavily breaking that humility that exists. And some of the ways that armor exists is through imposter syndrome and also through kind of self-denial of some of those experiences without oversharing. And I think that I did a good job of balancing trying to enjoy it rather than tell myself I don't deserve it. So a little oversharing, but that was yeah, I'm trying to live that best life. And then should be a member of the decade. I don't know that I got a decade in me, Darren. Like I don't think so, homie. Like I might have a year in me. I don't know about a decade.